Okay, welcome back. We're going to go to 9.5. Just joking. 9.3.1. Go ahead, Mark. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Council.
Good
How's
afternoon.
everyone? In the 2023 capital budget, Council approved $100,000 for administration to purchase intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems. With technology and attacks ever-changing, administration recommends we change course and purchase security as a service instead of purchasing hardware that will need to be replaced in 4 to 5 years. Administration is requesting that Council approve moving $78,000 per year into operating for 2023 to 2025, and the remaining $22,000 to be reallocated as needed. Security as a service has significant benefits over on-premises hardware in the following ways. We'll have human eyes on the network 24/7. There's no hardware to replace. There's a security operations warning included with the service. Managed risk reports improve security over time, and that's just keeping an eye on things and what's ever changing and updating. Security awareness training, cloud-based security for any cloud services, and access to expertise. Administration is recommending that Council approve the transfer of $78,000 from the 2023 capital plan into the 2023 operating budget, and furthermore approves the transfer of $22,000 from the 2023 capital plan to cash flow reserves.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yes, go ahead, Councillor.
Yes, the question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. The question is, so we're taking $100,000 out of our our capital budget, and then we're putting $78,000 per year into an operating budget. So that seems kind of odd to me that we're switching the money around like that. That's making a budget amendment for the next 3 years going forward, which is $234,000 instead of a one-time purchase of $100,000. And maybe I'm understanding that wrong, but
Through the Reeve, yes, that's correct.
okay. So is that something we really need to do then, or because that's quite a big, decent amount of money really to be putting at that?
So through the Reeve, perhaps I can help a little bit. So what we're proposing here is a service delivery change, and yes, it does increase costs, but we'll be able to redeploy the available expertise that we do have within our department and redeploy it to other higher and better value items, as opposed to sitting in front of a monitor watching for IT security issues.
Okay. So
It is a service change.
But
So-
Mr. Reeve,
Yeah, 1 second.
but going forward then, like when we come to October time to do budget again, our budget's automatically going to be $78,000 per year higher now. Is that correct? Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Reeve, I just thought the $100,000 was only for 2023, and you're decreasing that to $78,000 every year, but probably in the budget of 2024, you would have also had $100,000, but now it's only $78,000. Is that correct?
No, the $100,000 was a capital expenditure, and it was one-time dollars to buy hardware. That is going to depreciate and eventually need to be replaced in a 4-year, 5-year time frame. And depending on what kinds of security risks come forward in the future, that may be sped up. So so it will have an impact on 2024 and going forward, in that there will be a operating cost increase. However, it'll eliminate the need for additional equipment, hardware, and it will allow us to redeploy our limited IT resources to different projects and those sorts of things. So,
Thank you. Yes, sorry.
Thank you, Mr.
yes,
Reeve,
sir.
members of council. So not all of council will be aware, but approximately a year ago, we had our system was hacked. And it was a ransomware attack. And luckily enough, our insurers, and we don't, to be honest with you, I don't even think we know exactly what our insurers paid out. But over the course of a weekend, we had absolutely no IT ability, and our insurance company through Jubilee actually dealt directly with the attacks. We were able to get back up and running, but this is when this really became prevalent in our organization. One of the things that this does for us, and yes, it has an increased cost, but there's 24 hours eyes on our computer system from an external source. Even if we were to go out and spend $100,000 and put that equipment in place, we are still not eyes on 24 hours a day. So the world is not the same place as it was 10 years ago. I mean, I started in computers on a Commodore 64 playing Pong, and now we have ransomware attacks and other things. That was a serious attack. It shut our system down. We had the risk of losing all of our digital data. To me, it's a no-brainer to have somebody watching 24 hours a day our system. It is more costly than putting it in ourselves, but if we were to factor in that at some point we'll probably come back asking for another staff member who would do that monitoring service, it's actually quite cost-effective.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Swaggart?
Does that include some type of insurance coverage, so if we get hacked, then they're somewhat responsible?
Through the Reeve, yes, there's a warranty included with that, so this company also offers the same services that an insurance would offer, the hand-holding if there is an incident. The chances of an incident are a lot less likely when you've got 24/7, because you can stop them instantly if something happens, versus the attackers don't sleep, so when it happens at 3 o'clock in the morning, we don't get here or get out of bed and see the notifications till 6 o'clock in the morning. That leaves a lot of time for things to happen.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Slipchuk.
So what were the main factors that our previous decision was to go buy the product for $100,000. Then we decided to go with the yearly programming and watch an eye on the system. What were the factors that made us change course?
Just technology in general changing. This was not a service that we were aware of at the time of budget. After doing some digging into rolling this project out, realized that this is probably a better way to proceed long-term.
Okay. For picking up on it. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Scarson.
So is this a year by year, or are you signing a contract for?
Currently, we're requesting for a 3-year contract.
So that's going to be 78 per year? At 3 years?
Correct, yeah.
Yes, Deputy Reeve.
So if we're going to purchase the equipment at 100,000, how fast is this equipment obsolete after that? Is there a shelf life that is good for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Typically, this type of equipment is 4 to 5, possibly up to 7 if we push it, but it really depends on the manufacturer and what they're willing to support it for.
So with this $100,000, would that be a 24/7 type system as well, or?
The
That has to be
hardware
manned as
itself
well.
would operate 24/7. However, there wouldn't be human eyes on that. The alerts could take time to be noticed.
So same thing at the 100,000, you still need somebody to man it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
IT still has to monitor. Internally, we have to take care of managing and monitoring that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councillor Slipchuk.
This IT company, do they sell their hardware to other places, or do they just own the hardware and they manage it?
So this as a service does not include any hardware, other than a tiny little box that sits on the network and just keeps track of everything goes through it. The first option that we were looking at budget time was a much more robust hardware system that sits in front of the network and monitors everything going in and out without that third-party service monitoring it.
Well, the reason I asked is a couple weeks ago I went to a seminar in Edmonton. It was about cybersecurity, and they said they've had incidents where a IT company provided the software programming for, and would sell out for security, but did sell to other countries, other people, and then did hack into it and did get access into their systems. So they said, oh, guys should always be aware that we're not buying.
That's
product
always a
like that.
possibility with any software dealing with. You have to have some trust with the company.
All right, just looking for a motion, gentlemen.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Sipchik, for making a motion on behalf of council. The council approves the transfer of $78,000 from the 2023 capital plan to the 2023 operating budget, and furthermore, approves the transfer of $22,000 from the 2023 capital plan to cash flow reserves. Any discussion on this motion? I'm not seeing any. Let's call for the vote. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
On to 9.3.2.
Good afternoon, Raven Council.
Good afternoon.
The purpose of this report is to present Council with the financial results from the fourth quarter ending December 31st, 2022. Regular quarterly financial reporting provides Council with the required financial information to make informed business decision and assist in meeting Council's responsibility to the community. So we have 4 reports that we're presenting today. The first one being the statement of operations. So that one is your year-to-date actuals with your budget and then any variances. The second one is your statement of financial position, which is your assets over liabilities with your non-financial assets and your equity. The third one being your schedule of reserves. So that's the list of reserves that we have and the amounts that we have in those reserves. And the fourth one being the investment continuity schedule. That one is the investments that we have, which ties back into our statement of financial position underneath our portfolio of investments. Does anybody have any questions?
You're just too good. No questions. Yeah. You're good?
I will point out that on the very last page, it should say as at January 1st, 2022. That was a typing error. It should not say 2021. So on your copies, it says 2021.
Okay, thank you for that. Just looking for a motion then, gentlemen? Yeah, thank you, Councillor Crick, for making a motion on behalf of council. The council accepts an audited financial statement for the fourth quarter ending December 31st, 2022 as information. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you as well.
Thank you.
That's carried.
And Mr. Reeve, members of
Yes.
council, I believe the audited financial statement is coming to council on, at the next council meeting. Am I correct? Yeah.
I forgot to mention that. April 11th, we will have an issue here.
Yes.
And they will be presenting the actual audited financials.
Okay,
So we'll
thank you.
have that presentation for you guys. I think it's 1 o'clock.
Okay, thank you so
Okay.
much. Appreciate that. 9.4.1.
Good afternoon, council.
Good
I
afternoon.
have, excuse me, I have an RFD here for the regional water line connection to Ardmore and Fort Kent. Administration presented the RFD Ardmore and Fort Kent water servicing feasibility study update at a regular meeting of council on September 9, 2020, with Appendix A. At that time, council accepted the report as information and to discuss the options at the 2021 budget deliberations in Appendix B. Budget discussion in 2021, 2022, and 2023 did not include connection to the regional water line. The Cold Lake Regional Utilities Service Commission has asked for an update on the MD's position on connecting to the regional water line. Therefore, administration is bringing this item back to council for further discussion. AECOM was commissioned by the MD and had delivered a feasibility study with options and costs for the connection of the regional water line in Appendix C. This report was presented at the September 9, 2020 meeting. An overview summary of the report is attached in Appendix D. As the report was created in 2020, the costs associated with multiple options will likely need adjustment to reflect current pricing. As mentioned, the 2023 budget does not include an allocation for the connection options presented in the AECOM report. There's no funding allocated in the 2023 capital budget, and it's administration's recommendation that council directs administration to bring back options for connection to the regional water line to the 2024 budget deliberation.
Yes, Councillor Scarson.
So in this map, is that where it says rural user connections, is those already in place, or is that where they would, like there's already like a valve sitting there kind of thing ready to tie into?
Through the Reeve, to Councillor Scarson, those are residents that are connected currently to the 10-inch water line coming from Cold Lake feeding Ardmore right now. So this is the old line that that is feeding Ardmore right now. That's not on the new transmission line. One of the big issues here is how to connect these residents. If these customers were not on the system, it would be simple to switch over to the regional water line right now. But the big question, or the big issue that we have is if we do, how do we keep servicing these customers currently?
Right.
So, because you're looking to shut down the 10-inch line, like to decommission it?
Through the Reeve, that's one of the options. But if we shut down the 10-inch line, then how do we, the only way to connect those are to have direct connections off of the regional line, the 600 millimeter regional line, which on the map you can see that there's, I think the furthest way away is probably almost a mile away from the connection. So.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. I had Mr. Bespalko bring this back to council. So some of these decisions and some of this discussion took place prior to my arriving here in 21. I have been getting questions from the manager of the Cold Lake Water Commission, from Mr. Nagoya himself. They want final answers to whether or not we are not going to hook up. I've had several emails. Councillor Swigert forwarded me one here just recently as well. So I thought before I sent off any information to Mr. Nagoya that we do not want to hook up, that I would have Mr. Bespalko bring this back for some council refresher and to get some direction. Again, I wasn't here when the original decisions were made, so I thought this was an important conversation before we tell them we don't want to hook up.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Scarson.
So maybe elaborate a bit on that, because, so now how big is the bigger line?
Through the Reeve to Councillor Scarson, it's a 10-inch versus a 24-inch.
Yeah, so the 24-inch just goes straight to Bonnyville?
Yes.
And we're not using that for Ardmore and Fort Kent right now?
That's correct. We are hooked up to it, we're connected to it, but the valves are not open because we still have to supply water down the other side. And if we don't, then that water, which is chlorinated water, is going to go stagnant more quickly, and you can have disinfection byproducts coming in and basically just not having good water.
And so now the question is we've got this 10-inch line that should get decommissioned, right? But there's people tied into it.
Through the Reeve, that we could decommission it. It likely has life expectancy left in it. So to decommission it, I guess that's one of the options, as mentioned in the report. The other option is to backfeed or continue feeding both ways and just alternating so that there's a fresh supply of water in the 10-inch and getting water from the 24-inch. But the problem is that we have to connect them both to, if you do that, that 10-inch line has to be connected to the transfer station, because that's where chloraminated water is coming out of.
Like in Cold Lake?
Not in Cold Lake, no, outside of Cold Lake. Just on the transfer station.
So we'd have to have a pipe coming from somewhere along that 24 to the start of the 10-inch, basically.
Correct, on the south side, so on the outlet end of the transfer station, we would connect the 10-inch line. That's correct.
And through the reeve to council, the big issue is there's only, I believe, 17 users on that line. And the problem is the water doesn't go, we don't use enough water in that line. That it either has to continue flowing through, or we have to add chlorination stations to that to keep that water chlorinated and fresh. That's really the big issue. There just are not enough users on that line. Decommissioning the line or adding other lines, that's a significant capital expense that we certainly could discuss at budget, but it would not come without some cost.
And if I may add to that, or a significant amount of flushing at the end of that line in order to maintain fresh water.
Counselor, sorry.
Yeah, just maybe some input into that, because I live in Ardmore and we're hooked up to that 10-inch line. It's also, yeah, like you said, it's hooked. The 24-inch line runs right by Ardmore and Fort Kent's fill stations, and it's tied in, but not, the valve's not open. But I guess I was looking at alternative 5 there, but probably right now the best thing to do would be to tie the 10-inch line into the transfer station outside of Cold Lake, and then we'll get chloramine instead of chlorine. So it's actually it's better for your it lasts longer. Chloramine is more stable in the water, so you got a safer water supply. And then we've also got the 24-inch line that is chloramine also. So then you're okay that way. So you're not mixing chlorine and chloramine. But we could, I think the suggestion was open the 24-inch line maybe every couple of months or whatever to fill the fill station in Ardmore and Fort Kent, I guess, and sort of alternate. So keep the 10-inch line until it needs to be replaced, and it may be 30 years down the road. Because we've been waiting for, this question has come up probably four years ago, or even before this water line started. And we kind of have to come to some decision on it. But
They're going to bring us back some options with this motion?
well, they've already done it, right? I mean, they're already here. There was like 5 different options that we could have chosen. I guess 6 different options. But that came to us probably 3 years ago.
2020.
And so we have done nothing with it. And so, I mean, I guess, I've gone through it. My opinion, we keep the 10-inch line because you got those 17 folks along there, and it's pretty hard to tie them into the 24-inch line because I don't think they're not really co-located. So, and I don't think the AEP wants a whole bunch of other people tied into that 24-inch line. Another issue, though, is you still have now, you've got a 10-inch line that runs to Ardmore. You've got a 6-inch line that runs to that fill station halfway between Ardmore and Fort Kent. And then Fort Kent is filled with a 4-inch line from there to Fort Kent. And so 4 years ago or whatever, we put another 4-inch line from Ardmore all the way to Fort Kent as a backup so that we could tie in those residents along that line. That line's never been used, never been tied into, because council chose that on administration's suggestion to cancel our bylaw that we had, so that would allow people to tie in. We haven't rewritten that one yet, so we have no way kind of through policy to allow people to connect into the water line between Ardmore and Fort Kent. So I don't know, there's a few issues still, because there's still people asking to get tied in. So I'm not sure how we're going to look at that one. Anyway, I'm not sure where you want to go with this, Mr. Bispelko, but do you need input from council now to make a decision, or is this just going to go shelved again for another couple of years?
Through the reeve to Councillor Swigert, I guess the only thing that administration is asking for is some direction. We have no money allocated in the 23 budget, so it's administration's recommendation to put this on for 24 budget, or whatever other option council sees fit. Because we don't have the money allocated this year, that's why the recommendation is to look at it for 24. But again, that's council can make that decision. But that's where I'm at with the recommendation.
And the Cold Lake Water Commission wants a decision.
Answers too.
Yeah.
Councillor Slipchuk.
Yeah, so it mentions here with cost adjustments, with your experience, because you've seen the costs go up and everything, what percentage would you say we have to increase all these costs by?
Well, through the
Like
Reeve.
today's time.
Through the Reeve, if you look at the study, there is a 40% contingency on the amounts that are there right now. Having said that, I would anticipate at least a 20% increase on what is there right now. So that 900,000 is now $1.1 million, $1.2 million, just best guess.
Okay, so we couldn't do it even without the 20% increase that we may expect. So like we're gonna have to just carry it till 2024 and try to put it in that budget and see if we're gonna have the money then.
Mr. Reeve, I think it's important to, that we don't lose sight of the fact that everybody that wants water has water right now. So this is merely, this would be maybe streamlining it, making it a little bit better, but everybody currently has water.
Yes.
So that's not the issue here. The issue just is the Cold Lake Water Service Commission has been sending me several pieces of correspondence asking for a decision, are we or are we not hooking up? I told Mr. Nagoy that we would get back to him. I wasn't comfortable making that decision based on information that came to council in 2020 when I wasn't here, so I asked Mr. Bespalko to bring that back to council. But everybody's currently getting water. If we said, no, we're not going to hook up today, that does not mean we can't hook up in the future. It's just I think they had some plans and they were kind of waiting for us as to what we were or were not going to do. But the 17 residents on the 10-inch line still have water. Fort Kent still has water. And the Cold Lake Water line still runs, the 24-inch line still runs down through the ditch to here. So everybody has water. Is it perfect? I would suggest no, but it's everybody has water.
Mr. Reeve,
Yes?
can I just add to that? Yeah, just about everybody has water. We've had actually requests prior to you from residents along the, I think they're along the 6-inch line between Ardmore and the fill station, and they have requested water, and we didn't action it, but then we pulled the policy, so now there's no way for them to kind of get water to tie into that 4-inch line or the 6-inch line. I mean, that's another question. We've got a 4-inch line. There was a backup. We could use that if we want to tie folks in, or we can still use the existing 10 or 6-inch and 4-inch line. But right now, yeah, there's a few folks that would like to tie in between Ardmore and Fort Kent.
So through the Reeve, if I can ask a question for clarity of Councillor Swigert, is that adjacent landowners that are requesting water or non-adjacent landowners? Because the policy right now is non-adjacent.
Yep.
Yeah, so the policy currently is that only adjacent landowners can, so.
Well, we don't have a policy we don't have a policy currently. We rescinded it.
Sorry, the bylaw that we have, the water and sewer bylaw that we have is only for adjacent landowners to connect.
Okay, well, I don't think we don't have one anymore because we actually got rid of it. So there's no, someone can't apply to hook into that water line because we don't have a bylaw or policy for it anymore. We did have until some years ago.
With all due respect, I think bylaw 1666 is still in effect. It's still our water and sewer bylaw. It has not been rescinded because we haven't done anything with it.
Okay, so I'm not sure which one we rescinded, but it was because people were requesting, and we said, well, we didn't really know at the time how to deal with this. Let's rescind this bylaw or whatever.
And that's only because 1666 does not deal with non-adjacent landowners. That's one of the things we're working on to bring back as a revision to the bylaw.
Okay,
but
perfect.
we still have a bylaw in place.
Okay.
Deputy Reeve Fidel?
Yeah, thanks. I think the big part of that conversation was that they wanted the MD to pay for it. They were not willing to pay for the water line themselves.
No, well, yeah. See, because our bylaw said there was a fee to tie in, right?
But
they're aware of that. So.
But none of them wanted to do it, right?
Well, no, they wanted water. They're willing to pay for it.
More than the water.
We just didn't, there was no way for, anyway, that's not really the issue right now. I don't know if we need a motion to put money in the budget in 2024 to solve this, because it can't just go on forever. And the issue is, yeah, so we're okay right now, but Cold Lake eventually is going to switch to chloramine for the entire city of Cold Lake. And then we got to switch eventually, so.
Through the Reeve, that would make it better, because then it wouldn't matter which line we take water from. Chloraminated water would be on both sides, so that would actually be better if the city switched to chloraminated water versus chlorinated water.
I'd like to make a motion for option number 1, that council directs administration to bring back connections to the regional water line for 2024 budget deliberations.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Reeve Fadeev, for making a motion on behalf of council, that council directs administration to bring back options for connection to regular regional water line to 2024 budget deliberations. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, council.
9.5.1.
Thank you, Mr. Reed, members of the council. This is regarding the Bonneville Oilman Society 15th Annual Lobster Fest on May 12th of 2023. The Bonneville Oilman Society is hosting their 15th Annual Lobster Fest on May 12th at the Bonneville Seniors Drop-In Center. The event includes dinner, live music, a 50-50 draw, and the Oilman of the Year presentation. The event starts at 5:30 p.m. and tables of 8 cost $672. The cost and source of funding would be the $672 to be funded from council's grants to individuals and non-governmental organizations budget. And the recommended action, the council approves the purchase of X number of tables for certain individuals to attend the Bonneville Oilman Society 15th Annual Lobster Fest to be held on the 12th of May and to be funded from the 2023 operating budget.
Yes, Deb.
Mr. Al Hogan, so in regards to this, have we done this event in the past?
Yes.
Yeah?
I will go with Councillor Kreviak's answer. COVID, when I got here, it didn't happen last year, and I certainly couldn't speak to May of 21. I wasn't here then, so.
I'd done it years ago even.
So,
Mr. Reeve, if I
Yes.
may, I can just confirm the last event they had, which was 2019. We did double check before putting this in the agenda package. Council purchased 2 tables for the 2019 event.
You need a motion, Mr. Reeve,
Yes, I do.
to purchase 2 tables for that event? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Kraviak, for making a motion on behalf of council, that council approves the purchase of 2 tables. Do we need the names and all that? Not right now. It's a table. To attend the Bonneville Women's Society 15th Annual Lobster to be held on May 12th, 2023, in the amount of whatever it is, to be funded from the 2023 operating budget. I guess we'll find that number. 2 tables times. 672. 12, 13 something. 1304? They'll have the number here right away. 1344? All right, any discussion on this motion?
Yeah.
Yes?
I just wonder what is the really the purpose of us going to this event, if we do go?
Oilmen's,
Yeah,
what do we get our taxes from?
good point. I'm just curious, that's all.
Yeah, from oil.
Okay.
Oilmen's represent, help them, we work with our industry.
Okay.
They notice when you're there. All right, any other discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried, thank you. On to correspondence information. Al?
thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of the council. There's not much to report. There's the financials from the C2 Center. The email release from Cold Lake Regional Chamber of Commerce, City of Cold Lake, that the City of Cold Lake was chosen as a rural renewal stream program designation. Rates are increasing at the Cold Lake Regional Utility Service Commission. And then there's a letter from the Alberta Hunter Education Instructors Association request for support. You could take a look at that. And the only other thing, and it didn't make the correspondence, but we were informed last week that we were successful in a grant from Todd Lowen's ministry in the amount of $937,000. That's for the Manitocan Bridge, particularly the one to deal with the inverted culvert that will help with the fish. So that'll be coming back to budget in the fall. The total project on that is going to be close to 1.5 million, but the government is giving us just shy of $1 million for that particular project. So that will be coming to council in budget deliberations in the fall.
Thank you. Just looking for a motion then, gentlemen. Yes, Councillor Kraviak, thank you for making a motion on behalf of council. The council accepts the following correspondence as information 1 through 5. Any discussion on this? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried. Just looking for reports from members of council now. Mr. Scarson?
Well, you know, since the last meeting, I had a library meeting, which was very routine, I guess. And then we did a Chamber of Commerce meeting as well there a couple weeks ago. The AGM was on Friday. I wasn't able to attend. I was in Calgary, but the meeting, I mean, they are gearing up for a couple of big events here, the Bonneville Oil and Gas Show, which will be a pretty big one this year. It sounds like there's been some good interest, and you know, the keynote speaker is Kendall Dilling, who's with the Pathways, so you know, definitely be nice to get some FaceTime with him during that event as well. So other than that, that's about it.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Crick?
Yeah, okay, on the 15th of March, we had an FCSS board meeting. We reviewed mostly just standard stuff, but the one thing we did extra on that meeting was we reviewed a governance, a report from the governance review that happened August 31st, 2016. And we decided to implement a lot of the recommendations out of that report that hadn't been implemented up to this point in time. On the 16th, we had a BRFA meeting. On the 17th, I attended Grazing School for Women, even though I'm a man. And there was a lot of good information there for the farmers. The ladies seemed like they're really enjoying it and learning a lot. The reason I attended was because I'm on the Ag Service Board. So, Cold Lake Chamber of Commerce, we have AGM was also on the 17th, and Minister Brian Jean was there, and I'm sure Councillor Fadeva will have more to say about that. It was also just a good opportunity for us to get in front of the minister there. I attended the town's 75th birthday party for a short time. And then also we had RMA conference last week. I had the opportunity to ask the ministers a couple of questions. And one question in particular, I asked them if they would prohibit funding any drag events for children. And they kind of talked mostly about mental health and didn't really answer the question. Also, I got a chance to talk to the Premier for a minute and brought up our concerns with Highway 28 needing some upgrades, and then also raised the issue with equalization payments, too much money going to Ottawa, not enough staying in Alberta, especially when Alberta produces the majority of the country's wealth, at which the MD produces 30% of Alberta's oil royalties. And then also on the 24th, we went to the Bonneville Chamber of Commerce AGM. That's it for me.
Thank you. Deputy Reeve, Fadeva?
Yeah, thank you. So I'll start off with the library board meeting. Unfortunately, we had two members of the board that had to resign because of their other jobs getting in the way. So I think Ms. Leslie Price is going to reach out to the MD and get some help to try to put that message across our Facebook or social media to get some people to apply for the positions. They also want to thank the MD for their continued funding. Northern Lights School Board, they have some stats that they're kind of challenging with. Some municipalities, there's a discrepancy with population numbers to what they're getting, to what the province is giving them. FCSS is going to have a volunteer fair in April, and then again, the library board was very thankful that they've been getting the money from the province for a while, but we still need to keep advocating because their last raise was done, quite a while ago. South Branch Library is having Battle of the Books May 4th in Coal Lake from 9 o'clock in the morning to 12. It's a school competition. So basically, kids read the books, and the judges ask them questions and make sure that they actually read the books and didn't make stuff up. Coal Lake Chamber of Commerce, AGM, Honorable Brian Jean, Minister of Jobs, Economy and Northern Development, was there. It was awesome that the Coal Lake Chamber of Commerce made accommodations for me to sit beside him, and made a reconnection with him, and that was good. I also had a Zoom call with Primary Care Network Group. So they're working on a MAPS program, and the MAPS program is quite intense. It's all the information that Minister Coping has been getting from his little road tour that he's done for the last 2 years. Doesn't sound like there's any solutions, any easy solutions coming up. So again, my request to emergency funding for our region still stands, and I think we still need to get on board with that. And maybe if it's okay with council, I'll reach out to the rest of the councils out there and to see if we can do a letter of support for our primary care networks. There's a $2 million loss that they have incurred in the last 3 years, and it doesn't sound like the future MAP system is gonna recognize that at all. And I think it's an important thing for us to fight. So another one was meeting with Minister Copping at our RMA. Councillor Crick was there as well. And yeah, we just talked about the PCN funding and the lack of it and some clarification. He says it's coming, but then the Zoom meeting didn't sound like it's coming. So maybe the wrong train. We also met with Minister Matt Jones, Affordabilities and Utilities. So Councillor Swigert was there, Councillor Crick, Slipchuk, and also C.A. Hogan. We got a little bit of homework to do. We also had a positive effect there at the Bear Pit session. We talked about Highway 28, and unfortunately it is not on the 5-year plan, on the capital budget plan. We've been told that it has been, but according to the Bear Pit session, it has not been. So I've been in touch with the office and wrote a couple of emails to them. And then we also talked about our bridge fund. Our bridge fund is, the question was kind of misunderstood a little bit. We were talking about our bridge fund is, in 10 years, is $93 million. And the so happened to be its exact same number as the province's bridge fund for this year. So, but yeah, that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Simpson?
Yeah, March 14th, attended SPED and Lara AGM. It was a real good get-together. There was a lot of attendance. Lots of producers attended. Then from there, we went on to the RMA. And at the RMA, there was a veterinary course I looked into. And it was a very good course. It realized that there's a worldwide problem, shortage of veterinarians, so the government's they're pushing the government RMA to help fund, try to get veterinarians trained up and assistance. As well as I took the next day went to an ICF course, which was very interesting. It was about renewing ICFs with towns and municipalities. I learned a lot in that course. Like to discuss further in camera on some things. And from there, I went on to a lodge meeting here yesterday. We had last night. It was a very good lodge meeting. We got lots of vacancies though. We got to look for, try to get those filled up. And as well as I attended the LAR board meeting yesterday, it went well, and we're dealing with some things there going forward.
Thank you. Councillor Carrier?
Thank you. Most of my meetings were discussed. The FCSS, what's called the Farmers Report on the recommendations. I also attended the Grazing School for Women in Flat Lake. I gave the welcome on behalf of the MD. I have never been in a room with 46 women before. There were three. Thanks for Councillor Crick and Nick Hunig attending. Nick Hunig gave a speech on organic farming. Lynn Dargy talked about modernizing ag through technology. And when Mr. Hunig came in there, he thought he was lost because all he saw was women. So I finally waved to him, told him to come and sit by me. I went to the Cold Lake Chamber of Commerce to see Minister Jean and Emily Hansen. Also attended the Town of Bonneville 75th anniversary. Reeve Kolinsky gave some of the history and presented a plaque from the MD. It was a very nice turnout there. Went to RMA Convention. We had a lodge meeting yesterday, as Councillor Slipchuk mentioned. A very caring staff to get us through the COVID, where only you had 2 people sitting at a table, and those who had COVID, they had to be served in their rooms. And the activities had to be modified. The government gave a one-time $75,000 payment for rent supplement, and there was a budget deficit of just over $400,000 because of 40 plus empty rooms, 26 or 7 in the Bonnie Lodge and also the Cold Lake Lodge. And also had a fire authority meeting, but that'll be discussed later, I think. Eh? Okay, so that's all for me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Swire.
Thanks, Mr. Reeve. So, yeah, I also attended RMA. Lots of good sessions there. A couple of interesting ones. So the renewable energy in Alberta, they're talking about solar and wind, and it's not so much in our area. I don't know if we're going to end up with solar and wind in our area, but anyway, the big solar farms and wind farms are popping up, and unfortunately, it's an issue maybe with land use because they Alberta Energy Regulators and Alberta Utilities Commission kind of give approval for these big solar farms, and some of them are on prime agricultural land that should be farmed, and not much municipalities can do about it yet, but maybe that changes. Again, veterinary stuff, good session on that, and how we're really short of veterinaries. They're trying to work toward changing that somehow. Minister of Municipal Affairs Rebecca Schultz did talk about setting a new directive for the AER, Alberta Energy Regulators, to have them pay their back taxes to municipalities before they're given permits for new wells. So hopefully that comes forward, and the AER is directed to actually do that, so that we're not stuck with back taxes owing to us from these oil companies. Councillor Krivak and myself, was an impromptu meeting with Minister of Municipal Affairs Rebecca Schultz, and we discussed briefly the Kinnasoo Adventure Park and the province of Saskatchewan, how we'd like to expand that park into Saskatchewan, and she actually did say that maybe we could reach out to her, invite her out here, and she does have contacts in Saskatchewan, so it might be worth our while writing the minister a letter and just hoping the elections go well and she's still there and she can help us out with our Saskatchewan connections. We had a waste reduction meeting just a day or 2 ago. Just a few numbers here. It costs us $325,000 a year to haul our waste to Thorhill, and we're spending about $2.5 million a year in waste counter management, and we're kind of looking at ways to go to waste energy to maybe cut back on those fees, and hopefully, we're monitoring another organization that's actually doing the waste energy, and hopefully they get something going, and we can sort of throw some money into our budget to maybe move forward on a waste energy system in the MD here. So I think we maybe keep that in mind, because I think when budget comes up, Councillor Fadea and myself will kind of maybe push to add something to a budget for a waste energy initiative. Just mention here, the Riverhurst bin site we're going to start on opening that up for Riverhurst, or for the residents in that area in spring, summer. Roadside cleanup is coming April 29th to June 11th. People are registering for that. And April 11th, we'll have an RFD brought to our council for to change the times for Ardmore and Fort Kent operating hours. So should be good for all of us. And we had a C2 meeting last night. C2's going all right. They had their audit, Metrics Group did their audit and presented that to us. And they have the GenMac ACL hall, kind of a soft opening and not official yet, but they actually are using it now. So lots of people are really making good use of the new GenMac ACL hall. And that's it. Thank you.
Just,
Yeah,
Mr.
go
Reeve,
ahead. Yeah.
wanted to say you probably know the windmill project in St. Paul area was canceled, was scrapped. I'm not sure if you heard about that or not.
No, I have not.
So it's done away with. But I received an email on windmill blades. What they're doing with them, I have a picture. They have to bury them. So they're burying them in landmines, and nobody says anything about these windmills. And also it takes, it says here, 150 turbines for a windmill farm, and each wind turbine needs 80 gallons of oil. So they still need the oil, but nobody mentions this, going green. It's not going green very well. Like it's, I have a whole email on this. I should forward it to you people. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess most of them are mentioned. I'd like to touch base on that 75th on Bonneville. I think every third person was a MD resident. It's kind of cool. They're all coming up and saying hi, and Mike and Josh were there. I don't know if you guys noticed that as well, but there's a lot of MD people there. I was honored to be there to do a presentation. Thanks, staff, for making a beautiful plaque to give to them. Also, the highlight of since the last meeting was 100th birthday party for Mr. Willie McGregor that I was fortunate to attend and represent as the Reeve there. It was so well done. Couple of highlights there. They had a lady from like a relative all the way from Amsterdam, and when she came up, her accent was like you're at a conference in Geneva or something. Her voice was just like that lady on TV, and it was really cool how it resonated through and she was just so thankful for Canadians and how they served, how their bravery and because Willie was an ex-veteran, and she was so thankful, and how thankful their government. And she also brought us a 75th pin from the country of Netherlands there to give to each one of us there. So it was pretty touching, and she was like breaking down. And then we also had another lady from Jerusalem on our table, and her accent was pretty cool, and they both her husband was speaking at it, so they had all the way up to almost the Prime Minister giving them awards, and for his 100th year. But he's a real hero in our Iron River area. He got a lot accomplished in our area. He's one of our pioneers that got it all going in the Iron River area, and here in Bonneville he had lots to do with the Agriplex when it first started, and lots to do with seniors, the lodge and stuff like that. So I was very impressed with the whole event, and that was my highlight of the last 2 weeks by far. So thank you, gentlemen, for your reports. Are we going back right now, Al, to 5 point whatever?
At the 6.1, correct.
6.1? All right, 6.1.
And Mr. Reeve, members of the council, so to save the time, I'm not sure exactly how council would like this handled. This item was tabled. We'd need a motion to remove it from the table. And then at that point, if this is no longer required, it would just be a motion to receive for information and call it a day. If council's still interested in this, then we can certainly go through the presentation. I'm just not quite sure what council's wishes or what has happened in the meantime since this originally came to council and today.
Okay, I'm sure we're going to have lots of comments here right away. Okay, what do you guys want to do?
We do need a motion to remove it from the table to start.
Okay, Councillor Quick. Okay, let me get back there. I'll wait for them to type that up. Okay, thank you, Councillor Crick. On behalf of council, the council lifts bylaw number 1841, Fire Hall number 1 renovation loan bylaw from the table. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Okay, that's carried. Thank you.
Mr. Reeve, what do we do next, or what?
I'm not sure where we go next.
So, Mr. Reeve, members of council, if there is still interest in this, then Ms. Walker certainly can provide the presentation. If other decisions have been made, then I would suggest that it's probably, I don't know that it would be worth taking the time to spend the 15 or 20 minutes going through this. And if that's the case, I would just suggest that council just receive this report for information. And then we certainly have discussions regarding what other decisions have been made, if any.
Okay, does anyone want to, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think that we need to start with some sort of update, right? I mean, are we able to use this, or is this even an option anymore, or what? Where are we at with everything, right? So.
Do you want to speak, Mr. Reeve, or do you want me to?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, at our BRFA meeting, we passed a motion to go with a fixed rate over 5 years and to keep the rates low. With that motion, we can pay 10% a year without penalty, but as far as I know, the load has not been finalized yet, so we can still utilize this option from the MD. So we can go ahead and make a motion to go ahead with this. We have to decide here. The motion was made at the BRFA to expedite the process with the NG 911. So it's up to council to decide whether you want to go with the MD loan or not.
Yes, Deputy Reeve,
I'm kind of confused to the whole thing. I mean, you guys made the motion, so that, I mean, you guys kind of bypassed our suggestion to table it. So I'm not sure how we go about even listening to this. If you guys made the motion to go ahead with this, then we'll have to deal with that. And I think we just save administration 15, 20 minutes of presenting it.
So you don't want to hear nothing about this?
Well, I mean, you guys made the motion and I'd be afraid to go ahead with the loan. We just have to just make sure that it's approved and see if it fits in our budget.
Okay.
Right? Like, I'm not sure what the direction is. Like, you know, we asked to table it. You guys made a motion. Now we're bringing it back to wait for another decision. It's like a yo-yo. I'm not sure what to do, right? You guys made the motion, so you guys found your own funding, so I'm not sure.
It's not us guys, it's us as council. It's not us guys, it's us together. Yes, go ahead.
You say it's us together, Reeve Plinsky,
Yeah.
but we made a motion to table it. So if we, like, help me understand, if we tabled it, weren't you supposed to go forward, listen to everything, then bring back to council and act on council's wishes? Because the majority of the vote was to table the motion, go there, discuss, and then bring it back.
I
But you
don't
guys-
think there was any vote, yeah.
We voted to table the motion here.
Yeah, table a motion, but a table motion is just tabled, it's done. Everyone voted in favor of tabling the motion.
Yes, right, we did. But I thought then you'd go there. The way I understood would you'd go to your board meeting, then bring back information, what the deal was before voting on it. Like, but
Well, you
it
probably-
passed. Like, I
you-
thought we were supposed to represent the MD first as council.
So what's the reason we tabled it? To table it for more information or to stall the project? Why did we table it? Like the truth?
The truth?
Yes.
To get more information
Okay. Or not to stall?
and check other options.
Okay.
Because I did email you, Reeve Klinsky,
Yes,
and so you, I don't know, I don't even know what the vote was or who voted what.
that's
And I asked you,
not
and all
true. That's
you-
not true. I emailed you back.
Yeah, you emailed it back and you said you voted wrong. That's what you said, it was 4-2.
Yeah, I
And
did.
then you said you voted wrong. Well, okay, I guess you must have been the one
You-
voted and didn't
you
take
a-
the council's wishes.
You asked what the vote was. I said 4-2. Is that not correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. So you just.
And then you just said you voted, you said you voted wrong.
I did. I should have voted in favor.
Okay, thank you for telling me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah?
You didn't ask that, though, Donnie. You asked what the vote was. It was 4-2. It's more important what the vote is here than what we're discussing for BFRA. Really, it's
Mr.
it's
Reeve?
like the biggest deal of what the vote was and who voted for what.
Mr. Reeve?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a tough situation though, because we have in-camera discussions here, so we can't say anything about it, and then, you go to BRFA, you can't say anything about it, because it is what it is, but we're here now, and I guess I would just ask maybe the fire chief come up and get some clarity from him. Are they good with this? And I assume they are, but, because if they're quite good with the decision that's been made, then we cancel this bylaw or whatever. We don't need to discuss this.
Sorry?
No, just saying, I don't even think, I was surprised this even came back to council, because, like BRFA's, you guys have made the decision, and it's here now, so, I mean, I'll just ask if BRA is happy with their loan agreement that they've got right now or whatever, or, because somebody mentioned maybe it's not too late to do something different, but I'd like to know where they're at, and if they're quite happy with what they've got, then that's fine.
Well, I think BRFA just spoke that they're happy with what they got. I mean,
Well, I'm just, once our Councilor Scarson asked the same question, a little bit of clarity, I'm not sure we have all that clarity yet.
I think I'd just like to make a motion to go in camera,
Right.
and so we can discuss it further.
I don't think it has to be in camera, it must be discussed in the open.
So you guys
Why do you
want,
want to go in camera? Why?
it's intermunicipal, it's under FOIP.
No, there's nothing to hide here, I mean, I don't need to go in camera, but it's up to you.
So
You
there's
know,
nothing, okay,
No, I think
It's up to you, if you want to go ahead,
I
fine.
think we do need to have it in camera because there's stuff that's, we can't be sharing. We've already talked about in camera that needs to come back again too, so.
Yeah, my concern is if we keep going into camera, then we can't do anything, because then you can't discuss it with anyone later, so it's just,
Mr. Reeve, just for clarification, this came back because it was a direction of council to table this until the March 28th council meeting. So that's why this is back on the agenda today.
so, Mr. Reeve, I'll just ask then, if no one else wants to answer, then the fire authority is okay with what the decision they've made, so I'll just make a motion to cancel this or remove it from our agenda, basically, because we don't need it.
If you made a motion, that's out of order because there's already a motion on the floor. Mr. Fidei made a motion to go into camera. So you can't make another motion while there's one on the floor still.
Did you make a motion? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Reeve, can we just clarify, we have good grounds to go into camera? Because I don't believe we do. We're going to be doing these circular discussions forever now.
Oh, he's made a motion, so I think, Mr. Reeve, we have to vote on the motion.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Councilor Fidei. You made a motion to go into camera. I'm just going to call for the vote, I guess, or how do you put it? Just gonna go up there.
In, well, you just,
Thank you. Moved by Deputy Leader on behalf of council that this meeting goes into closed session at 1:12 p.m. for the following reason, section 21. Any discussion?
no, I was just going to say there's a slight error in the discussion on benefits, but I'll discuss that later.
Does that have anything to do with this? No. Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. That's denied. It's defeated.
So I was, go ahead. I was gonna ask, so I mean, as part of the presentation, I would like to know, what the difference is, and if we've got that number as opposed to us passing this bylaw, or going forward with BRFA's motion, and how much the difference would be in the costs, right? So, we talked about some savings before, and I think it's important that we know that.
I don't know the exact numbers myself. I don't know if anybody does.
Well, I don't know if it's part of the report or not, but.
The thing is, if we went with the MD borrowing bylaw, we'd save some money on interest. Is that correct, Mr. CEO?
The only thing I can tell you is what I have, is what I have in the report. I have no information on what BFRA has arranged or is planning on arranging. So I have nothing to compare it to because I don't know. The report that you have in front of you does talk about what the actual costs are going to be to the municipality to provide the loan. And we're certainly happy to present that if that's where council wants to go, again, as discussed earlier today. But I don't have anything to compare it to because I don't.
So I'm guessing that the BRFA members would have that information if they made the vote on it, right? So is there a cost analysis as to what that loan's going to cost, interest-wise and all that? Have we received that?
Mr. Reeve, Mr. Haney will have the numbers.
Yeah.
I don't have the numbers with me here.
I don't have those either, but we brought Mr. Heaney in to answer some of the questions from council. If anybody wants to answer any questions about the loan that we're getting on the BFRA, I'm sure we'll have all that.
Well, your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you guys have no objections, we'll bring up the chief to answer some of those questions, if that's okay with council.
Mr. Reeve,
Yes.
if we may, for Mr. Haney to come up, we could just get a motion approving him to address council.
Sorry?
If we could just get a motion approving Mr. Haney coming up and
Okay,
addressing council.
sure. Would someone like to make a motion? Yeah, Councillor Kraviak, so we'll wait for that.
Mr. Reeve, it's not on the motion.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kraviak for making a motion on behalf of council. The council approves Regional Fire Chief Dan Heaney to address council regarding agenda item 6.1 bylaw number 1841 Fire Hall number 1 renovation loan bylaw. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried. Thank you. Okay, Fire Chief Heaney, you like to come up and answer Mr. Scarson's question? Councillor Scarson, sorry.
Good afternoon, Council. Through the Reeve to Councillor Scarson, based on the motion that was made at the last BRFA meeting, which was to take out a 5-year fixed loan with the Lakeland Credit Union, the 5-year term at 5.90%. That worked out to an annual payment of $383,000, $763.96. The MD portion of that would be $245,608.93. So compared to your RFD. Of 229, 456, 70.
So can you repeat, sorry, with the, what was the principal amount of the loan again?
4.5 million.
And the interest paid would be?
Interest paid over the
Term of the loan?
over the full term, 3.175.
So I guess I'll ask, you know, where are you at with the loan? Is it, is it done? Is it completed there? Like, is it worth us to make this motion to do this borrowing bylaw to save $500,000?
So the loan is not fully completed yet. There would be an option to, let me back up. I believe, and the members of the board that are here can correct me if I'm speaking out of turn, I believe the decision was made based on timelines. We have until April 6th to award the tender that was put out. We did not believe that running the full process of your borrowing bylaw was going to fall within that timeline. So the decision was made to move forward with finding other financing. The loan is not fully done yet. There's a couple of options. One would be to flip over completely to a floating rate loan, which is a higher interest rate, but can be paid off at any time with no penalty. So the decision at the time was to go with fixed. I don't think it would be too much of a stretch to make that change with the bank. And then have that pending the result of the borrowing bylaw, then there's still the potential here to save that money by going with the MD loan and being able to pay off the loan through the credit union.
And I guess maybe the savings is actually more than 500,000 because it doesn't really take into account the interest that we would be paying that we would save on our own, right? So if we're paying, you know, 3.1 million in interest, basically what 60% of that would have been paid by the MD regardless, so it stays in the MD's pocket then, right?
Correct.
So that's, you know, that's almost $2 million in savings there by passing this bylaw today, right?
Through the Reeve to Councillor Scarson, without taking some time to do some actual financial analysis, I'd be hesitant to say what the savings would or would not be.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to get an exact number.
We can, I mean, it's a pretty good ballpark, I think, right?
Yeah.
The numbers are right here, 3.1 million that we would be paying through a loan directly through BRFA, or the 2.67 million through a loan through us, but 65% of that money is staying in our pockets that we wouldn't be paying, right? So I guess it's 65% of the 2.67 million, really, and you can add $500,000 in difference in savings as well, right? So
Yeah, Mr. Reeve.
$2 million.
64% of that is 2.032 million. So, yeah.
So my math is right.
Yeah.
I would also add, Mr. Reeve, if timelines are a concern, the lending bylaw from the MD would take at least 30 days to complete with the public notification and first, second, and third reading. So from today, you'd be a minimum of 30 days.
But like the chief said, you know, you could switch to a floating and then they could use this money to pay that loan off, right? And then have
Yes.
this loan. I mean, then at least you've got that security of having it. And So I think it makes sense to at least push forward with the borrowing bylaw, even though it still is not the best option, I don't think, but it is the one that's presented today, so.
Mr. Reeve, I'll just ask that question too then. So, Chief, if you go, instead of a fixed, if you go with the floating, then you're not gonna pay any penalties or whatever to pay it out, within a couple of months or whatever?
Yeah, the
So-
big difference between the fixed rate and the floating rate is with the fixed rate, you can only pay up to 10% of the original value annually without paying a penalty. Floating rate, which adds, I think it was 1 or 1.2 extra percent on top, then you're looking at, you can pay it off at any time without penalty.
So I'll just ask your opinion then, because maybe it does look like a good idea then to go through with this bylaw. Then that, if you know we're gonna go through with this bylaw, then you can go ahead and get the floating rate, and within 2 months or whatever, we'd have this bylaw passed, and we could just pay out the credit union or whoever it happens to be.
That's only our choice, nothing to do with him.
Well, I mean, it's the VRFA's, I'm just asking, I'll ask you then for your opinion.
Yeah, it's an option, if council agrees to it, for sure, yeah. Deputy Reeve, yeah, go ahead.
We have a budget. Unfortunately, this expenditure is not in our budget. And I mean, it says right here in the MGA that another council member cannot make a motion on behalf of council to exceed their budget, so I'm not sure what we're gonna do here.
Okay, so why did we even bring it up then? Why was it even a motion why wasn't it a motion before you found that? Why didn't you find that before we made that motion?
It's always been in there.
I know, but why did we even administration bring that option to us then, Ben?
To see if we can make the bigger motion, right? To see if we can cover it. That's always been the question is, when we talked about it, we had a meeting and we talked about, is this the best way for the MD? And that's never been discussed.
No, but if that would have went through that day, we would have had a vote on it, and if it would have passed, it would have been fine.
That's if it would have went.
Yeah, but it had the possibility, so why didn't we have this, whatever you're reading right now?
Why even bring it up? Yeah.
Why didn't you bring it up then?
Because we tabled it,
Oh, okay.
did we not?
Well, you had that ready to go before we tabled it? You had this ready to go before we tabled it?
Absolutely.
You did?
You didn't know about the MJ?
No, I guess I didn't know that one.
You don't know the MJ? Okay.
No, not as good as you, I guess. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm confused here too, because the last time we were in camera, we had some discussions that there was possible other options. And I thought that we were gonna discuss all things before we made a final decision. But we're just working on passing the loan. We're like, nobody wants to go on camera and discuss these other things that we discussed in camera before, that we have to discuss in camera, as you know, regarding a certain property.
Well, Mr. Reeve, we do have other options. We just presented you with an option from BRFA, but in order to save some interest money, if we can pass this borrowing bylaw. If you don't want to pass the borrowing bylaw, we'll go ahead with the motion made at BRFA. And the extra money, you're saying it's not in the budget, well, there's always ways to, take from the reserves for this 1 year, and then in the fall, put it in the budget for next year.
Yeah, Councillor Scarson.
Well, I mean, I completely understand what the Deputy Reeve is saying, and even Councillor Slipchuk, and I mean, but it's really, I think the decision's been made for us, right? And it's too bad that it's been made by members of a different municipality even, but that's where we sit. And I mean, if I'm gonna have to sit here and make a decision today, I'm not going to let this borrowing bylaw slip out of our decision-making to save us $2 million, right? I mean, the way I see it is that the decision has been made regardless of how we feel about it, I guess. So how do we proceed forward, right? And I mean, it don't make sense to just let the BRFA continue on with a loan that we could save a lot of money on, right? So I think there's still lots of questions to answer, but if we're just here talking about the topic of this bylaw, to me, it only makes sense, right? Considering with the state that we're at, right? So.
Well, I think that's why administration brought that to us, so we would save some money. Isn't that correct, Bill?
Yeah, Mr. Reeve, members of council, so of the two options that are in front of council today, the lending bylaw from the MD is clearly financially superior to borrowing from an external source, clearly. I would also remind council that if council does want to go, if the original plan as passed by BFRA to borrow from the Lakeland Credit Union, that still would require resolution of council to move forward. And that would be a budget amendment, which is required under the MGA to have a council resolution on. So no matter what happens, there has to be a vote, whether it's on the lending bylaw or on the borrowing bylaw. I think if council is determined to move forward in this direction, the lending bylaw is clearly the best, and it would be my recommendation at that point that barring any other plans or programs, that the floating loan for the period of 60 days while the lending bylaw works its way through the legal channels is superior to just going out and us being tasked with a rather large payment with $2 million worth of interest over the next, probably, I'm not sure the long term, I'm guessing that's a 20-year term at a 5-year or 20-year amortization period, probably at a 5-year term. But this is clearly superior to going out and spending $2 million on interest. I was unsure as to what Councillor Scarson's original question was, but now that I've kind of figured that out, yeah, our offer is financially superior to BRFA going to an outside lending source and borrowing the money. In terms of the municipality, it's clearly a better deal.
Yeah, Deputy Reeve Fidel.
Yeah, my whole thing is I still don't think this is the best move for the MD as far as the Capella building goes. The options are still out there with the municipal safety building that we had. We were under the impression that we could not move 911 in there. It had to be on the second floor, and that's the reason why we were looking at the Capella building. This is there is other options, and I think we have to explore those options, and I think that's where my issue comes in. There is other ways of doing it. There's still life in I think it's station number 5. There's still a lot of life left in it. We have an ambulance system, and I think if we can move to that building there, I think we're saving a lot of money right now. I mean, we're looking at our costs that are out there, and I think it's for $1 million we can be in there. I think the MD would be willing to probably donate. I'm not just kind of thinking, and I think for $1 million we can be in there instead of spending $2.8 to $3.17 million just on interest alone. And I think that's an option there as well. So
just let him finish, please.
And I think it's an option. We look at all options, and I think that's my biggest obstacle there.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Reeve, to Mr. Deputy Reeve, how much longer will this delay take? Are you sure? And is it going to be 1 million? Are you sure about that number, 1 million?
It doesn't matter because you guys don't outvote us anyway.
Why are you making these conjectures? Well, you don't have any proof of anything.
Well,
okay, guys.
I just want to, first of all, I'm not finished. We can't be delaying this project any further. And so I'd like to make a motion for number 1 option. That's my motion right now. Thank you.
I just want to comment to what you said there, Deputy Reeve. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure we had offered that building to someone, and we would get administration to offer it, and then if they didn't take it, we were going to offer it to somebody else to purchase that. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure we discussed that in council a while ago. So, Al, am I right on that, or am I off?
There are currently no offers on that building.
Okay, so we didn't offer it to no one?
We've reached out. No one has returned back with an official offer.
Okay, so that's good. What's that?
I don't know what the status is.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just checking it. Thank you, Al. All right, we have a motion on the table by Councillor Kraviak on behalf of council that bylaw number 1841 being a bylaw of the municipal district of Bonneville number 87 to lend funds to the Bonneville Regional Fire Authority be given first reading. Any discussion on this? Yes, Councillor Scarson.
Well, I got a few comments here, but I certainly don't think that this is like the end of the road for this. I think there's a lot more discussion that needs to be taking place, to be honest. I think it's something that's necessary, though, to put this in place, to get this, because I don't want to be sitting here in 3 months from now and saying, okay, this is the best option, and now we start over, right? So I'll be in favor, but I feel that there's still more discussion that needs to happen on our level. And who that involves and what that entails is tough to say, for sure, right now. But I don't think that's the end of it. And I just want to, you know what, I want to kind of just give a quick thank you to Fire Chief Heaney, because he's sitting up here in a very awkward position, and I just want to make sure that he knows and everyone knows that he's done his best work, and he's presented to his board, and his board has presented us, and this is our issue now, and not really the fire department's or the fire chief's issue anymore, right? So we have to decide what's the best decision for you know, our MD based off what we know, and that's where it is. So thank you, Fire Chief, for all the hard work you put into this, and I am excited to get you know, the new building up. To me, we got to make sure we're doing it the right way. That's all there is to it, right? So.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Yes, Deputy Fidel.
Yeah, I'd like to find out what your other questions are, because if we pull the trigger on this, then it's going to go forward, and are those questions going to be too late?
Yeah, but I don't think that passing this bylaw means that we're committing to anything except for having the discussion later on, right? I mean, we still have to approve lending the money, right?
So through the Reeve to council, so the process on the lending bylaw, similar to a boring bylaw now, will be, you can only pass first reading today. From this point, we go to public notification and a few other things. So this will come back finally to council, because we do not have a council meeting at the end of April. This will come back to council the first meeting in May. So the earliest this could be passed for second and third reading would be that council meeting. I believe that's May 7th or May 8th, May 9th. So that's the earliest this can come back at this point. It's actually a longer period than would normally be required, but there is no council meeting on the 23rd of April. That meeting was canceled. So this could come back on May 9th, should come back on May 9th for second and third reading. And very quickly after that, if council passes second and third reading, a check can literally get cut the next day, or even that day. So we're probably 5 weeks from today. And if that helps give the fire department some direction, RFA some direction in terms of a floating loan to get the project started, et cetera, that would be our timeline. And unfortunately, that's legislated. We have no way to speed that up.
Mr. Reeve, what's on April 25th that is canceled?
Council canceled the April 23rd or April 25th council meeting a couple of council meetings ago. There's a bunch of people away that week, so that meeting got canceled.
Yep.
It is possible, I should add, that if council is interested, and we certainly see what the timelines look like, but it's always possible for the Reeve to call a special council meeting when after the timeline works its way through the process. But in reality, that would only, we're talking about a week.
Yeah.
You might speed it up by 1 week. So.
Yeah. Deputy Reeve Fidel.
So another question I have is, what if we don't approve the budget of the $245,000 going ahead? Now, VRFA is going to go ahead and get a interim funding, and then what? Then we're not going to approve the budget? Where does that sit?
Well, when would that come back to council?
So, Mr. Reeve, members of council, if council wants to proceed with the lending bylaw, and so there's a whole series of what ifs, and if the Bonnyville Regional Fire Authority went ahead with a floating loan that created a charge that's above and beyond what we've budgeted for this year, 248.1 of the Municipal Government Act does require that any amendment to a budget be approved through resolution by a council. So whatever that number is, whether that was 5,000, 8,000, 10,000, 12,000, whatever that number would be for that 4 to 5 week period of that floating loan would have to be approved by resolution of council at that time. And I would suggest that would probably come back to council the same day we brought back the second and third reading of the bylaw. I'm sure between then and now, Fire Chief Heaney and myself and Susan can certainly put together what those numbers would be once the fire department has arranged and the actual loan itself, then we'll have some idea is if it was, you know, May 10th, they paid the floating portion off, we would know what that would cost, and at that point, that would be included probably in a separate RFP on the May 9th council meeting.
So in this schedule here, the payment amount of 179, is that just the MD's portion then, or what is that amount? Or is that the full amount?
I believe that's the full amount.
So you said your payment was 245 basically, right? To 179. Twice a year. But yours, the one you're looking at, it was monthly?
Annually.
Oh, annually. 245 annually for 20 years.
Yeah, go ahead, Susan. Come on up.
And that 245 was our portion. The actual annual payment overall was 383, 763, 96. If my scribbling when Fire Chief Heaney was speaking is correct,
Okay.
our portion was 245.
Yeah, that's
So it's actually $384,000 annually, which is roughly the same as the 179 twice yearly.
Go ahead.
And the schedule is reflective of a 20-year term
Yes,
altogether, so
Yeah.
just so you're aware of that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this motion?
That MG, so, like, that's a governance rule, right?
Yeah, it's like the Bible for the government.
So are we breaking the rule then here, or what? Explain to me more here, people, please.
In terms of legislation, right now what you're doing is perfectly legal. There is no issue from a legislative perspective. You're passing a lending bylaw. You will be giving first reading to it. If you pass first reading, we'll do the public notification and the process is required in the MGA. It'll come back for second and third reading. If there is additional charges above and beyond what council has approved in the annual operating budget, again, whether that's 5, 10, 15, 20,000, I don't know what the number would be today in terms of the cost of that 5 or 6 week floating loan to get the project started, those numbers would have to come back to council for approval. That's all. So today you are perfectly in compliance with legislation as you sit at this exact moment.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Slipchuk.
So, we go forward, we pass this, then public consultation, people know we're doing this, right?
Yes?
We're on camera. But now we already mentioned on camera about, we had discussions in camera previously where we had some other options. Now, when these people come and ask me this, because they get public notification, can I share that with them now?
So the rules around closed session are pretty simple, that anything is considered confidential until it's brought forward at an open council meeting. So the moment it's brought forward at a council meeting, it's no longer a closed session item. That's almost verbatim out of the Municipal Government Act. So if it's brought forward at a council meeting, and it doesn't say how it's brought forward, it doesn't say that council permission is required. If it's brought forward at a council meeting, it no longer follows the same closed session rules. So if council wanted to talk about what those other options are, that would be entirely up to council as to how council approached that issue. But if it is discussed at an open council meeting, it is no longer considered to be a closed session item.
So what do we do to bring forward this stuff that we talked in camera before, our options? Let everybody know all the facts.
Go right ahead. We're still having discussion on this.
It's the motion right now, yeah.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
So I can bring all the building in there.
Sorry? You can bring whatever you want up.
Okay, so in previous, we discussed about options of the Works building along Railway Avenue. Put 911 in there, which would be quite a savings there, because we're close to water and internet, would be quicker access, cheaper access, okay? Then we discussed if we took the possibility and sold the Capella building, renovated the current fire hall, which correct me if I'm wrong, is there any issues with the fire hall as is with us responding to fires? Oh.
As far as responding to fires, no. No.
So that was the options we discussed, which, just rough numbers, and we didn't have no actual confirmed numbers, stated a big savings and no borrowing of money if we were able to take that option. So I just want to bring that out there, and this way when...
Your mic isn't on.
Sorry.
That's
So
okay.
I just wanted to bring that out so that everybody's aware what we did, why there was so much controversy going on here, but we'd like to discuss more, because there was other options we discussed, but we're not gonna, I guess, go forward with them. And we want to just go forward with approving money and not look at all the best options for the taxpayers, as Councilor Scarson said before too. As much as you like a fire hall in your ward, but you even admitted that that was a bigger saving for everybody if we looked at that option that we discussed before in camera.
Yeah, Mr. Reeve.
Yeah,
You're
go ahead.
renovating old buildings, and so all you have is old buildings. We made a motion, the previous council, to purchase that building for the purpose we're discussing right now. And we were told to go ahead with the renos as per BRFA, so the motion is on the floor. We need to vote on the motion.
Any other discussion on this motion? Yes, Councillor Scarson.
Well, I guess I just kind of feel that, you know, maybe our hands are tied a bit on this one. I mean, it's not really up to this council, I suppose, to decide where BRFA is going to put their building. Is that kind of where we're sitting? Because we're just beating our heads against the wall if that's the case, right? I mean, we have to kind of figure out what's the best way forward for this council, right? And I mean, it kind of seems like we don't really have much choices here, right? Is that kind of the impression I'm getting?
Well, Mr. Reeve, didn't the previous council approve that building?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the council did approve it. You were part of that. You were part of that council.
It was.
Yeah, but that approval of that building underlined a lot of things that were not correct. That 911 had to be on the second floor. That EMS was okay to be there, but then wasn't.
No, that wasn't. The discussion was, there's a second floor there already for 911. If it was not to be on the second floor, we'd have to make sure it would be security safe. That was a discussion. So over there, it was already on the second floor. Yeah, that was a discussion.
I don't remember that discussion.
I do. That's what I remember.
Must have been one of your discussions in camera when I left. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion on this motion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. That's carried. Al, do you have anything in closed session?
Yes, there are two items, 1.1 under FOIP Section 17 and 19, and intergovernmental relations under FOIP Section 21.
Can I have a motion to go in camera?
Can I just make a comment on the other on this other thing here, on the MD discussion on benefits and stuff? I think there's an error there. It says the Bonneville Regional Fire Authority is funded by the MD of Bonneville, number 87, and the town of Bonneville. That is true, but only like 19.2%. The rest of it is funded by, get funding for EMS and 911. So the total amount of funding by the two MDs, by the MD in the town, is 19.2% for 2023, of which the MD pays 64%, and the town of Bonneville pays 36% of the 19.2%. Thank you. Not the entire amount, because there's EMS there and 911. Thank you.
Mr. Reeve, can I make I want to make a correction to that statement. With the new borrowing bylaw and the extra interest from the BRFA, that the MD's on the hook for more, the municipalities will be paying more than 19% now.
Yeah, but that's what it is for now.
Yeah, but now it's going up because we're borrowing money.
That wasn't my comment.
Okay, thank you. Who made the motion to go in camera, or did we have anyone? Okay, thank you, Councillor Crick, for making the motion to go in camera. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. It's coming. Mm-hmm.